Hello and welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Friday, the 9th of December. My name is Rachel Parker. My pronouns are she and her. I am an Anglican priest in the Anglican Church of Canada, the Diocese of Edmonton, and I serve as the rector or the priest for Dayspring Ministries, which is a collaboration of St. Mary's Edgerton, St. Saviour's in Vermilion, and St. Thomas in Wainwright. I'm glad that you're with me today. Now, if you follow the church year liturgically, so Roman Catholic, Anglican, Episcopal, Lutheran, and maybe some others, you'll know that this season that we're in right now we're sort of smack dab in the middle of the Advent season. And this is this month of preparation before Christmas. Some people like to think of it as that time of getting ready for Christmas, and we ignore the Advent part. But Advent itself is a very important part of the liturgical year, and a very important part for Christians in the way that we live out our lives. And lately, well, every day, I've been using this book, Common Prayer, Liturgy for Ordinary Radicals. And the beginning of December, it mentioned, had this note on Advent that I'd like to share with you. It says here, Advent, meaning the coming, is a time when we wait expectantly. Christians began to celebrate it as a season during the 4th and 5th centuries. Like Mary, we celebrate the coming of the Christ child, what God has already done. And we wait in expectation for the full coming of God's reign on earth and for the return of Christ, what God will yet do. But this waiting is not a passive waiting. It is an active waiting. As any expectant mother knows, this waiting also involves preparation, exercise, nutrition, care, prayer, work, and birth involves pain, blood, tears, joy, release, community. It is called labor for a reason. Likewise, we are in a world pregnant with hope, and we live in the expectation of the coming of God's kingdom on earth. As we wait, we also work, cry, pray, ache. We are the midwives of another world. Just as red, white, and blue have meaning in the world, as in these colors don't run colors also have meaning in the church, though a different sense of meaning, needless to say. Advent is often marked with purple, signifying royalty. In earlier times, purple often marked the coming of a king or Caesar. Often members of the royal family were the only people allowed to wear it. Many Christians celebrate Advent by lighting a purple candle each week for the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, and then lighting a Christ candle, usually white or red, on Christmas Eve. As you will note in the morning prayers, many Christians also remember St. Nicholas, who was a faithful man of God before he was a cultural icon. Today, the season between Thanksgiving and Christmas that many of us recognize as Advent is the biggest frenzy of retail spending. More than half of it, hundreds of billions of dollars a year, is spent as we celebrate the birth of the homeless Son of God in that stinky manger. And he got only 3 measly presents. One of them was myrrh. What baby wants myrrh? Hundreds of Christian congregations are now rethinking the Advent season as a time for compassion rather than consumption. I think that's a really powerful statement on what Advent is and what Advent maybe should not be. I have been preaching for years to my congregations that Advent is not simply 4 weeks of preparing for the baby, the birth of the child. It is 4 weeks of talking about and understanding and preparing for the coming again of Jesus for Christian believers. And one of those things that I think we forget about, and this has been highlighted time and time again in comments that people have made on my videos, is that the church seems like, when I say church, I'm talking like what people perceive to be the church. So North American context, I guess, that the church is really become so much about politics, above and below the border, about money, all the calls we have, and we all do it. Every church, even the smallest ones, sometimes maybe especially the smallest ones, those calls for, to donate to your church because we need that money to continue. We do. There is no, because we are not a for-profit business, we don't have a product that we sell that we can make money. So we do rely on the gifts of others to enable us to pay the bills, to pay the priest, to make sure we have candles and wine and wafers and things like that for communion and coffee for coffee hour. But more importantly, it allows us to serve. In many churches, the way that we serve is through the priest. We pay the priest, who the priest then goes out and serves. We also encourage people and we teach to people. So, yes, excuse me, consumption is huge and the expectation of that. But the church is missing the biggest point, I think, that when we talk about the waiting for the coming of Christ, it is not, for generations, I think, we did a whole lot of disservice because we sort of talked about, you know what, we can suffer through this life because the next life is going to be all that and a bag of chips. We've spent way too much time talking about heaven and eternity and what will happen after our time on this mortal coil. It's, you know what, okay, great. And as people have been pointing out to me a lot lately, we don't know that that isn't just a myth. Fair. That's fair. I don't know what's going to happen. I have faith in what will happen in the afterlife, in life after death, in heaven, in eternity, whatever you want to call it. However, I am no use to anybody if I'm always living there, if everything in my life is living there. Now, if I'm 99 and my body is shutting down and all I really want to do is close my eyes and go and meet Jesus, then absolutely. But you know what? I'm 51. I got 44 more years, 49 more years to go, I hope, or more, doing this thing called life, living the life that God has given me to live. So me focusing on the afterlife is going to do nobody any earthly good. So what I need to do, what I think the whole church needs to do, is to focus on this life. And that's what Advent is about. We aren't called to sit and wait patiently looking at the sky for the return of Jesus from heaven. We've been told we are here to prepare the way. We are supposed to be doing the work of preparing the time when the kingdom of heaven will be, the kingdom on earth will be like the kingdom of heaven, when Jesus will be able to come and reign on earth. Well, that means we've got work to do. The kingdom's not ready. We have not prepared the kingdom yet for Jesus to come, for the king to show up. Think about it. If King Charles III were to come to Canada tomorrow, come to Wainwright tomorrow, there would be so much flurry of getting stuff done. There would be looking up protocols. There would be figuring out where's he going to sleep? What hotel is he going to stay in? Do we have enough room for his entourage? Do we have food? Who's going to welcome him? Who's going to give speeches? Who's going to create whatever has to happen? Who's gonna snowplow? Like get the roads clear so that he can actually get here. There's so much work that has to be done before the king can come, and we're here. And this is what as Christians we're called to do: is prepare the kingdom of God. And if all we're doing is worrying about that consumption and spending money on Christmas presents, which I'm a big fan of Christmas presents, and I love to give them. I'm not saying don't do that, but it's a both and. Instead of spending all of our time in Advent thinking about that Christmas morning when all those presents will be opened and 10 minutes later or maybe 6 hours later or a day later something is broken or forgotten or gets thrown out with all the shredded wrapping paper and all of that preparation is done. That's not what we prepare for. We should be preparing our world so that if Jesus were to come now, he would see that we had done what he called us to do. Jesus didn't tell us that we're supposed to hate people. He didn't say, go out and persecute the LGBTQ2S two-spirited inquiring and allies peoples. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't say human traffic children. He didn't say make your healthcare a two-tier system so that those who have money can have good health and those who can't will suffer. Jesus said we're supposed to go out and serve one another. We're to treat each other as we would want to be treated. Think about it. If every single person treated other people the way they would want to be treated, how different would our world be in that moment? If that's the only thing we did different was to treat every single person we met the way we would want to be treated if they met us. If every person did that, wars would end. Poverty would end. There would be no medical crisis. There would be no political crisis. By one simple thing, every single person treating others the way they would want to be treated. And that's just the basic. That's like the bare bones minimum that we can do. We are being called in this Advent to prepare the world for the coming of the King. And some of that work is being done, but not nearly enough. We need to stop fighting. We need to stop worrying about who has what, who has more, and who has less, and look it around and say, does my neighbor have enough? What do I have to share? Are there homeless people in my town? How can I find them a place to live, a shelter, and not just a place to live for tonight, but a place to live forever? If there are people who are hungry, how can I help feed them? Not just take food to the food bank, but how can I help feed them? If there are people who are lonely, how can I help them to not feel lonely or scared? That is what Advent is all about. And the truth is that Advent, for Christians, is not simply that period of time after the reign of Christ until Christmas Eve. Advent is all of who we are, all the time, every day, 365, 24/7. We are meant to be preparing the world for that moment when peace will reign. True peace. So as you think about everything that you have to do between now and Christmas, maybe start thinking a little bit more also, in addition to that, about the things that you're called, that you can do, the things that you're called to do to help prepare the world. Whether you're Christian or not, we can do a better job of living together in this world. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Sunday for Gospel on the Go, and I will see you Monday for Church at Home with Rachel. Thanks for hanging out with me. God bless.